A lot of bikie gang patches on the floor.
They were a bit late to the party. Most of us did it during COVID. But Australia's bikies have just become part of the Great Resignation.
I quit!
36 patched members of the country's biggest outlaw motorcycle gang have handed in their colours. It's unprecedented in Australian underworld history. We've had defections and patchovers at scale, but nobody can remember when so many members of one outlaw gang took their bat and ball and went home all at once. It's the single biggest mass exodus since Fortescue Metals Group's last management reshuffle.
What happened?
Senior West Australian rebel Karl Labrook's latest court case is what happened. Karl took to the stand a couple of weeks ago to explain the provenance of $207,000 that police found on the backseat of his car when they pulled him over in late 22.
Well, the cops suspected the cash was...
Dirtier than Rolf Harris jerking off Prince Andrew while Jeff Epstein films it.
Right.
Let's just say they thought the money was ill-gotten.
And Karl was in a bit of a corner. 50 had the whole thing on video, so he couldn't deny that it was him in the car.
It wasn't me. It was the one-armed man.
And he couldn't argue he didn't know the cash was there because it was very clearly perched on the back seat.
Then everything is wrapped up in a neat little package.
In this case, literally wrapped up in a neat little package, the cash was in Christmas paper.
So what did he say?
He said what everyone says when they're busted with something that someone reckons they shouldn't have.
That's not mine.
Labrook said the money wasn't his, it was the club's. It was his explanation for why he was holding it that raised a few eyebrows. Karl said he was in charge of his club's finances. Membership fees for the rebels are about $75 a week, and there were a lot of them, so we're talking a fair bit of folding. He said he was overseeing the money because one of the club's former bosses had been stealing from the gang. At the time he was assassinated in December 2020, Nick Martin was the WA president of the rebels, and occasionally he acted up as the club's national pres, the big kahuna. Martin was 200 kilos on a lean day and didn't mind throwing his weight around, including, according to Karl, in the counting room.
Ah, so he was skimming off the top.
Skimming implies a thin slice. This was more than that. Karl said Nick was properly fleecing his club.
And the club didn't like what Labrook said about Martin.
Members on the West Coast didn't have a problem with anything he said because they knew it was true. They were the ones who'd been stolen from, and they knew that Karl took no joy in trashing Martin's legacy. These guys were actually very close friends. That's Labrook delivering the eulogy at Nick's funeral. According to some of the cops who are monitoring the situation, the club's bosses, including National President Damien Vella in Sydney, didn't get that. All Vella saw were suspicious headlines and smart-ass commentary about the case on the internet.
We all know where bikies get their money.
A self-serve kiosk, so simple and quick.
Disappointingly for Up Late, Karl didn't plead the cash for cans defence. Damo is a nephew of Rebels elder statesman Alex Vella, who for the past 10 years has been living in exile in Malta.
I find this poem very hard to write. Nick's life and future was bright.
That's Alex showing off his beat poetry skills at Nick Martin's funeral. The East Coast bigwigs wanted Labrook to send them the court transcripts so they could judge for themselves whether he had conducted himself with a sufficiency of staunch.
And Karl said...
Well, no matter of words. Not actually you. He said, if you want to read the transcripts, go apply to the court to get them like anyone else. Oh, and by the way...
I quit. I quit.
Wow, so he resigned. I mean, he's been a member for a long time.
Coming up 25 years, one of the founders of the WA chapter. Caused him nothing but grief, really. He's done more time in solitary confinement than even he can remember.
How many escapes have you tried?
He's watched his mate die around him. The club's inaugural WA president, Rick Roberts, shot dead in Canberra by a love rival. The club's longest serving state president, that was Nick Martin, shot dead by a sniper. And the club's immediate past president, Jamie Ginn, dying from a seizure on the cold concrete floor of a police cell.
Rebels presidents have the life expectancy of fruit flies.
Being a 1%er can be a hard life, as Labrook well knows. He's had to go toe-to-toe with people he once considered friends. That's him with Mongols figurehead Troy McCanty. They're no longer speaking because their clubs are officially at war. He watched his club, which was once a pretty serious force in the Australian underworld, become a bit of a running local joke. That's a convoy of rebels bikies crashing into each other after a drive-by shooting conducted as part of the aforementioned battle with the Mongols. And he was pissed off when a heap of members who were sent to jail for their role in that dispute with McCanty's men got no support from their club. Sydney questioning his allegiance was the last straw for Labrook, and so after 2.5 decades, he arrived at a conclusion most of us would have come to much, much earlier.
I'm too old for this shit.
And a bunch of rebels followed him out the door.
As of going to air, 37 patched members have quit. Good time to be a tattoo removalist.
Dude, what does mine say? Sweet! What about mine? Dude, what does mine say?
I'm Ben Harvey.